Welcome back to The Pulse. Now, a memorial service is taking place this afternoon for former Vice President Amissah-Arthur, who died last week. The 67-year-old collapsed at the Air Force gym in Accra during a workout. Efforts to resuscitate him proved futile, leading to his death. Born on April 29, 1951, the economist, academic and politician was the 6th Vice President of Ghana in office from August 6, 2012 until January 7, 2017, and the President John Dramani Mahama. He previously served as the governor of the Bank of Ghana from 2009 to 2012. He was also part of the team of technocrats who managed Ghana's structural adjustment program in the 1980s. We have more on him shortly, but first a short montage looking back at his life.
Amissah-Arthur, born April 29, 1951, was an economist, academic and politician who was the 6th Vice President of Ghana in office from August 6, 2012 until January 7, 2017 under President John Dramani Mahama. Previously, he was governor of the Bank of Ghana from 2009 to 2012. He was sworn in as Vice President on August 6, 2012, following vetting by Parliament, a week after Mahama himself was sworn in. This followed the sudden death of John Atameos on July 24, 2012. Amissah-Arthur was a research assistant at the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research between 1974 and 1975. He later joined the economics department as a teaching assistant from 1977 to 1978, going on to become an assistant lecturer in 1979. He lectured at the Department of Economics at the University of Ghana between 1980 and 1988. He had also been a lecturer at the Department of Economics, Anambra State College of Education, Awka, Anambra State, Nigeria, from August 1981 to July 1983. He went into politics until 1997. He worked as a consultant for the World Bank in the Gambia. He also served as a consultant for the Netherlands Government Education Project in Ghana.
So, may his soul rest in peace, but on the day of his death, many paid tribute, describing him as a selfless and hard-working gentleman. We have some of those tributes for you shortly, but right now, let's bring you a report from his Cape Coast hometown, filed exactly a week ago when his death was reported.
This was the scene at the family house of the former Vice President, Amissah-Arthur, here at Ola in Cape Coast at 7 a.m. Residents who had heard the news started massing up at the residence. There were some who wanted confirmation, some who had confirmation of the news already, and some who were curious, wanting to know more about the death of the former Vice President. The family did not want people to get close to the family house because they had difficulty breaking the news to the mother of the former Vice President. The mother, Madam Amissah-Arthur, who is about 90 years, they fear something terrible could happen if they did not use diplomacy and tact in breaking the news. Her phone was switched off, the radio and television sets were disconnected, and eventually the electricity supply was disconnected in their bid to manage the sad news of the death of her son. At about midday, the crowd grew thicker, and some elderly members of the family, together with some priests of the Methodist Church, managed to break the news to her. It was a breathtaking moment. Residents of Cape Coast who had had contact with him a few days ago say there is none like him. They praised him for his decency and his gentle character.
6 o'clock, sad news on your papa. Oh, it was a yash had the papa, and Africa, who could tell a decision in name. No,
when was the last time you saw him?
Muhuni Saturday. Yet to Abo CNC, Oboton, constituency, but Obotu Bio, Mori, Yenukrum, Mori, Oboto, Aboto, if you want, no, but CNC, obey, Obichain. Personally, I've missed greatly because even though I have a good team that is ready to work, but then I was looking up to other people who had also shown that interest in that preparedness to make sure that this current administration that I'm heading succeed. So to me, I've made a confidant as someone who was ever ready to push my cause.
The presiding bishop of the Methodist Church Ghana, Right Reverend Titus Awotwe Pratt, and other bishops and priests of the Methodist Church visited the house to commiserate with the family. The Zongo community in the region was not left out. Mahmoud Dande Mazawaze, the fourth, is the head of the Central Regional Zongo Chiefs.
Just on Wednesday, on the 27th, I was with him until 6:30 p.m. at the launch of the book called The Wife of a Vice President, My Journey, quote and unquote. So I woke up this morning. This is the sad news that met me. And I don't think I could just sit in my house. I really needed to come to the family house and confirm it. And then say my condolences to them as well.
The NDC party in the Central Region has instructed all constituencies in the region to halt all activities and converge in Cape Coast to show their love to the family on Saturday. Regional organizer of the party, Peter Kofi Owusu-Eshia, spoke on behalf of the party.
You got a great father, you got a great model for all of us. Calm person, always keeping a smile. He will never allow you to go astray.
The former vice president, about a week ago, joined the NDC.
So that was a week ago when the news broke of the death or demise of the Vice President Parkwesi, former Vice President Parkwesi, Amissah-Arthur. Joining me in the studio to mourn him is the Chief of the Little Republic of Idumasa and host of PM Express, none other than Nana Nsakwao. You're welcome.
Thank you, Aisha.
Nana, for anybody who reports at the presidency, I think that seeing the vice president is a bonus on a daily basis. At least anywhere you see the president, mostly you will see the vice president. So that was my case, because I used to report at the presidency, and yeah, I often see Amissah-Arthur with the president a lot of times, but my closeness with him was back in 2015 at the Economic Forum in Senchi, You remember that economic forum. And I saw the man, I mean, very closely, and I realized that he's such a calm person. He's the reserved type, and he seemed to know what he was about. And you could just tell that, I mean, when you talk economics, he was just an icon of economics. He really had in-depth knowledge of economics. How did his death come across to you, Nana?
Well, actually, I think I was very shocked, you know, and even though I think the breaking of the news and the confirmation came at a very short period, because, you know, social media would pick and choose who they want to kill at any time, and then later it announced that, oh, the person is not dead. But when the news broke that, you know, he had passed and the confirmation was, you know, quite...
At least for me, it took me some time to believe it.
Well, you know, I saw it on my Joy Online, so then you can't doubt it anymore. Yeah,
that was authentic.
So that's where my...
Yes, immediately I heard the news, I came on our page, and then I saw it there.
Yeah.
Then I
was
a bit relieved, because I thought it was all this political. Because we've had some of these things go around. They did it to President Kufuor, former President Kufuor. They did it to
his wife.
Before former President Atta Mills died, we heard rumors that he was dead, and he wasn't dead. So, I mean, when I heard this, that was what happened to me until I confirmed on the JoyNews page.
And I think also, you see, because he was a fit man, and you know, you never heard of any hospital case or see him unwell. So it was quite sudden. You know, it was really, really quite sudden. Unfortunately, I've never met him personally. However, my views or thinking about him from afar is confirmed by those who know him, that he was such a gentleman. Honestly, I thought he was a square peg in a round hole, in terms that, you know, our politicians are some way, you know, in quote, some way. And he wasn't some way, you know.
It was just straightforward.
Yeah, very noble, you know, very humble, and, you know, like on the campaign, he was unable to utter, you know, all those negative words.
Yes,
and
he was very cautious
of what. Words. So I just found him as a really gentleman, you know, such a noble, you know, has all this noble aura around him. And that's how I saw him from afar.
Right.
But you're listening to those who know him, you know, closely, from both sides of the political divide, from everybody who seems to have contact with him is wowed by his gentlemanliness. And so it's a shame, you know, it's a shame. And he's a vice president, so I mean, it's not an ordinary person. So to lose, I know, you know, Allah, God will call whoever he wants to call at any time.
At any time.
But sometimes, you know, you expect them to at least lie on the hospital bed for a week. You know,
it's so painful sometimes, and the fact that, I mean, the man was fit. I mean, if you looked at Amissah-Arthur, he didn't look to us like somebody who had any, before President Mills died, there were a lot of issues of his health and all of that.
Medical checkup.
Nothing of that. I mean, can you tell of Amissah-Arthur? Nothing. You couldn't say any of such things. The man looked very healthy, and if you saw him on a political platform, he was very healthy, and all of that. So it really, really came as a shock. And to think that his mom, who is, I hear, over 90 years, is still alive, then it was. I mean, it's really a blow to Ghanaians. Let's hear some of the tributes, and first, I think we should start with former President Jerry Rawlings, who under whose watch he served as Deputy Finance Minister.
Yes, sir. I just want to know your fondest memories of him. It was you were his boss. How do you remember him, sir? How do you remember him, sir? What will be your fondest memories of him, sir?
One of the humble ones, hardworking. And he bailed us out of some pretty serious situations when I was in office. You'll hear more later. Okay?
What lessons should we draw from
his legacy, sir?
Excuse me.
Thank you.
I was with him on Wednesday at the book launch I sat beside him, and we've chatted, and everything was fine. And because I've always seen him with his wife, always supporting his wife, and we said goodbye to him. And then I just found out this morning of the shocking news. What can I say? It's just, you know, it's very, very sad. He was always seen there supporting his wife in every way, and we just leave it to God and ask the good Lord to grant his wife and the children and all the family, give them strength and courage during this time. So all we can do is just to pray for her. He was a wonderful man, very, very supportive. So we thank God for his life, the many lives he touched when he was here.
Honestly, my mind is blank. My mind is blank. I just don't have words to express, you know, my current feelings. You know, simply unimaginable. An unthinkable events happen, but our faith teaches us to be strong and to thank the Lord in everything.
It was awful. It was nothing like we ever expected. It's just unbelievable to think that somebody we were with virtually the whole day on Wednesday, just 48 hours ago, could be gone so quickly. It has been a very difficult few hours for both his political family, the NDC, and the immediate family.
It's not easy.
How did you hear of the news?
I was woken up by a call, and the person wanted to know whether it's true that our former Vice President, Amissah-Arthur, is actually dead. And so I said, no, let me call. I made a call, and before I could even hear from the person, I heard it from the radio. It's not easy for me to weep, but I wept.
I saw it on the net, but there's been a lot of news on the net that has never been true. So I was hoping it's one of those newses. Then I looked at my phone and I saw so many missed calls from people who know I'm close to him. And then I called a few people and it became evidence that it was true. And I still don't believe it. I'm still in a shock. I just left the wife. We can only say God knows the best, and we hope he's in the hands of the Lord. Yeah, we've lost a great potential leader of the country. Yeah, and we all have to be brave and go through what we have to go through until the funeral. Okay.
You must be distraught.
Completely. I just left the wife. She doesn't even know what to do.
So those are some tributes that poured in for the late Vice President Amissah-Arthur. We're still trying to get the live feed from the Red Church where his one-week memorial is underway, and we'll be getting more of the fond memories from there. But Nana, many of those who felt that by his nature he wasn't a politician and that he knew the economics very well. He was, you know, it was at his fingertips, and so people thought that why didn't he stick with his economy, be a technocrat, and advise people on the economy rather than being a politician, because they felt that being a politician you should be a bit snobbish, you should be able to tell a little lie, you should be able to, you know, give it to your opponents and all of that. And Amissah-Arthur was too humble to be a politician. But for me, I think he brought some dynamics to our politics. I mean, he made the whole thing look flexible and interesting, not that too strict, too, you know, politics that we've observed in our country. I remember that when he was having that argument with Dr. Baumia about some 170 questions about the CD, you know, he brought out some funny issues, and I know it made everybody laugh. I remember when Mahama was campaigning, and he was like, I can't think far about those people who say ABC, and he comes back to say, oh, Moka, I can't think far, no, you know, so he was actually speaking opposite. But so he brought some interesting aspect of politics.
Well, Aisha, maybe he was a politician. Maybe that's what politics are supposed to be. People who are honest, humble, you know, that you look up to, people who protect their name rather than their pockets.
Right.
You know, so maybe he was the politician, but maybe he was a few amongst the lost, and therefore we think that, well, the others are rather politician and he is not. So maybe he was the politician. But it's a week gone by, and actually there are great many lessons that we should learn from. I mean, being a traditionalist, you know, on such a big blow, you should make sure that you don't relive it again. What comes to mind is our health. No matter how fit we look, we probably still need to do the checkup, because the irony of all places, it happened in a gym.
Yeah.
You know, it happened in a gym. So probably we all should check our health. And the emergency services was exposed again.
Yes.
Great many times they've been exposed, and then we let it go, and they've been exposed, and here we are. They were exposed.
We don't talk about it until something massive happens. And to think that the Air Force gym didn't have an ambulance, that's...
Well, I mean, maybe the gym could not have an ambulance on standby, but I mean, by now there should be a call-out time that within 10 minutes or within 5 minutes of wherever you are, you should be able to reach, you know, or get an ambulance. It's not beyond us, but maybe we haven't added priority. And another issue that comes up is first aid training among, like, let's say Joy FM or the multimedia. We should always have, you know, 1 or 2 people amongst us who have an idea of first aid, so that before even the ambulance comes, they can, you know, support life a bit.
Yes,
so,
because a lot of the times it's from the scene where the thing happened and is in between the gray area where the thing happened and the hospital. A lot happens, and mostly that is where the lives are lost. Because at the time it happened, I hear he wasn't dead until, I mean, some minutes they rushed him to the hospital, and then it happened. So who knows what happened between where he fell and then the hospital. So that is why the ambulance and people who can really handle those emergencies are very important.
The details haven't come out yet, but you know, just listening to Dr. Kama on PM Express, and he was saying that you don't move the patient until he's aware of himself. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was before they moved him.
In that event.
Yeah, but you know, if you have somebody who has first aid, you know, resuscitate the person.
You rather bring the person in rather than moving the one who's
you know, but it's a great loss. You know,
it is.
And it's almost a needless loss. And I pray that it starts a revolution that, you know, we all make
But
sure
for you traditionalists, and what I have heard from at least the Southerners, the Akan, the Fantis, and all of that, I've heard that if somebody dies, and of course the translation in Tree is that yesieno.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by yesieno means you're going to bury or hide the person? I mean, what's the difference between hiding and burying, and why do you think you're hiding the dead one and not to bury?
Well, basically, somebody like Amissah-Arthur would by all means become an ancestor.
Okay.
Yes. If you live
per the
tradition. So if you live a good life and you die, you become an ancestor. So you're somebody that they believe you have a good spirit, and therefore when they are praying, they would ask that, look, wherever you are, look down upon us, you know, favor upon us.
Okay.
So somebody like Amissah-Arthur will become an ancestor. If you're an armed robber and you die, you don't become an ancestor.
Why?
Well, who wants you? So you need you need to lead a good life to be called upon by the people you leave behind.
Okay.
Now, the Akans generally believe that you are just moving on to another world. And they even believe that wherever he's going, he's still going to be a vice president
over
status.
there.
Oh, status over there. Okay. So your funeral and your send-off and everything will depict the life you led. Okay. So they send you off. And because they didn't believe that the life has ended, they go and hide you. Bury means like finish, kaput. You know, if you bury something, it's finished. Okay. I don't know what bury is in tree, but in tree, you don't bury the body, but you hide it. You hide it. Okay. Because you're going to send him off to the next, world, so he becomes an ancestor. So as a chief or as a traditional ruler, every decision that you take, you have to consider three major things: the unborn, the living, and the departed. Okay. So every decision that you make, you consider these three things, so that everything you make should be sustainable, so that those who are unborn will come and benefit, those who are living will also benefit, and then when you go to the unknown, you can also account to them that, listen, I paid my dues and I did a good deed. And so by all means, they have to give him a befitting funeral, because he lived. Yeah, he rose to that status and he exemplified himself.
It, and I think by all standards he deserves it. Let's listen to former President Mahama, who also spoke earlier this week on his deputy.
This is to the family for this shocking demise of our friend and brother and comrade, Amissah-Arthur. As you may be aware, I was out of the country when I received the sad news, and so I had to cut short my trip and come back immediately. I arrived yesterday night and we came to pay our condolences. Pakwesi was not only my vice president, but we had worked together for a long time, from when I was Deputy Minister of Communications. He was Deputy Minister of Finance. And when Professor Tamils nominated me as his running mate, Pakwesi was instrumental in helping to raise funding and financing for the campaign. And so, naturally, after we won, he was made the governor of the Bank of Ghana. Indeed, that's when I got even closer to him, because he was chair of the economic management. He was governor of the Bank of Ghana, and I was chair of the economic management team. And so, at all the economic management teams, we discussed how to handle the economy. And it was very sharp. He knew what he was about. And his role at that time helped some of the success we achieved in terms of managing the economy. And so when the unfortunate happened and Prof passed away and I was sworn in as president, I couldn't have had a more capable person to support me as vice president than Pakwesi. He served with distinction. He was a gentleman, perfect gentleman. Indeed, people say I have the same disposition as him, and so they wondered how two gentlemen could govern a country. But I must say that it is his experience and a lot of the practical knowledge he has in project implementation that made us able to achieve within 4 years some of the successes that we achieved as a government. He was very athletic, very fit, and so this comes as a shock to all of us. But we just pray that his wife and family have the strength to bear this loss, and to pray that God accepts him in his bosom and that he rests in peace.
So that was John Mahama, former president of Ghana, speaking very well of his vice, Pakwesi Amissah-Arthur. You remember when he chose Pakwesi Amissah-Arthur as his running mate, there were a lot of people bashing him, and they're like, I mean, why Pakwesi Amissah-Arthur? There are other people who are very notable in the party. We've seen them over the years. Why are you choosing Amissah-Arthur? And he said, I have a reason. And of course, I'm sure he was satisfied by the time they left power that Pakwesi Amissah-Arthur really did a yeoman's job. Because if you really listen to former President Rawlings, he also made the point that Pakwesi Amissah-Arthur rescued them from a very terrible situation. And I'm sure it's all about the economy.
I was impressed with his vetting. That's when I got to know him a bit more. Like during his vetting, I thought, oh, I like this guy, you know. And after his vetting, when he came into presidency, when he now became his honest man and wasn't fitting in, I saw he was struggling. But I believe it was because he was a politician and the others were not.
Yeah.
And not because the others, I don't think it was that,
vice versa.
Not vice versa. You know, it was probably too good for the game. That's what the game should have been. Yeah, that's what the game should have been. But his vetting, that's when I warmed up to him during his vetting. To be honest with you, I didn't even realize that he was Kwesi Bochu's vice.
Okay.
No, I didn't realize it was Kwesi Bochu's vice. I thought, wow, this guy, you know, has been down in the trenches.
Around.
Yes,
he's been around. Just that he's the reserved type. He's not a noise maker, so a lot of people may not have encountered him, but. I mean, he's been around for some time. So what's your expectation of his funeral? Because, like you said, he must be giving a befitting burial.
I mean, he served his nation well. He's left a good name. And, you know, it's, again, being a traditionalist, you know, one thing that is most important in traditional circles is a good name. Case closed. I mean, the biggest taboo for the black man is shame. You should never ever let shame come on you or your family. And so he did all he did, you know, to give himself a good name.
And he served his nation well.
He served his nation well. I mean, what more can a man do for his nation? So if somebody rises up to that level and hasn't left scandals and embarrassment and stuff, you should definitely send him off to his maker the same way
he came.
So that I'm sure to be done for him.
All right, so we'll be looking forward to that befitting burial for the Vice President Pakwesi Amissah, the late Vice President Pakwesi Amissah-Arthur, and we all are sharing our sympathy with the family, and we're saying that may his soul rest in perfect peace. We'll be paying our last respect on that day when he's sent off to his maker. Nana Nsakwao is the chief of the Little Republic of Akwemu Edumasa, and he's the host of PM Express. Thank you so much for coming. So let's take another tribute from Setepe. He has been speaking on the AM show this morning. He's been sharing some fond memories of the late Vice President.
Remember him for what he did for the country. He was somebody who always promoted bipartisanship. I said during the period when he was in private practice, there was a meeting that was held to get a national consensus. And it wasn't surprising as vice president that he organized Senchi to get a national consensus. You remember? So playing back to his you know, so he's a consensus builder. He's somebody who wants consensus on national issues. And so that's his contribution. But for young people in particular, I would say that this is somebody you can look to, because he assumed responsibility at a very young age. If you look at his age now and you go back and you look at what it means to reach there, and so I would hope that he will be an inspiration, for young people, and to know that there is always a long-term goal, and you have to have a very long-term goal, as he did.
Thank you, Mr.
the